Hi, it's Jeff Pagano here from Harpin on Rugby. Over the last few weeks, our contributors have been taking turns going through some of the 15 starting jerseys for Ireland and weighing up the different options at Andy Farrell's disposal. We went through them in no particular order. In fact, each time I offered my guests a choice of the numbers that were yet to be selected. So now that we're left with just two jerseys, it can mean only one of two things. Either they didn't fancy going over our options in these positions, or Ireland's starters there are so cemented that there's really not that much more to harp on. Well, given we're talking about 13 and 15, I reckon the latter is a lot closer to the truth. So it's left to me to get involved and cover them. Now, obviously, for both of these jerseys, my Leinster bias is going to show, but I really don't care if it does because I think the arguments in favor of these players is as sound as it could possibly be. Let's start with jersey number 13. One thing that has impressed me most about the career to date of Gary Ringrose is that although he reached senior level at almost the exact same time that Brian O'Driscoll retired, he has always been able to show that he plays the outside center position his own way, as opposed to trying to replicate his predecessor. However, one thing they do have in common is that neither really fits the mold of centers we've seen deployed by most test teams over the past decade, namely powerful ball carriers punching holes in defenses. What Leinster and Ireland have now primarily with Gary is someone on the other end of that hole punching, namely being the fulcrum of the defensive operation, along with his most frequent partner in the center, Robbie Henshaw. If I had time to spare, or if someone was willing to pay me, I'd gladly spend hours poring over footage showing the two of them being the first to snuff out opposition first strike ball. Now, that's not to say they're the only pairing in the world that's able to do it. It's just that they've raised the bar, and this ability has played a huge role in success enjoyed by both blue and green over the years. And while we're on the subject of defense, I have heard one or two point to Gary's so-called missed tackles, and to them I say, whenever you see that in the stats, take the time to go back and look at the match in question, then come back and tell me how many of those tackles that he missed resulted in an actual line break. While I do say the Irish centers play a big role in our defensive structure, it can't function without a full team effort. And when someone like Ringrose makes a read and goes early for a ball carrier, if the guy does get beyond the tackle, much more often than not, he doesn't get a whole lot further. But of course, we also have to talk about what Gary brings to our attack. And here I reckon he could well be our most underused resource. This is clearly an Irish team that has been built around Johnny Sexton. And that, of course, makes perfect sense. But I reckon Ringrose is also someone who can be central to an overall strategy. For now, we've seen the best example of his quick decision-making whenever a set move breaks down. If the ball goes to ground and ends up in Gary's hands, there's literally no better man in the game for getting us back on the front foot. And he always seems to know exactly what to do. Just imagine what he could accomplish if the majority of our attacking plays were designed to get that quick thinking ability deep into the opponent's backfield. Who knows, maybe we will see more of that in the weeks to come. And it goes without saying that we also need options to wear that 13 jersey should Gary be unavailable. And there's no doubt we are well stacked in that department. Probably the best move would be to shift someone over that is likely to be wearing 12, like Henshaw or Bundyaki. We also have seen Jimmy O'Brien and Keith Earls do good work there. And hey, even Ross Byrne has put in a decent start for Leinster there once. But when it comes to the big matches, if Gary Ringrose is fit, then he has to get that jersey for me. Right, now for jersey 15. And apologies if my gushing over one Leinster player was too much for you, because I'm about to do some more. Much like we were as Bod was nearing retirement, when Rob Kearney's got closer, we all wondered if we'd ever be able to replace him with someone as reliable. One thing is for sure, when us online rugby fan opinion-giving types were harping on the succession plan, we most certainly were not bandying about the name of Hugo Keenan. But after starting and impressing on the wing, he went on to show us all that, even with quality alternatives that I'll get to later, there's literally no other starting option in the fullback position for Ireland. In fact, he's perilously close to being the first name on the team sheet at this stage. And it could be said that fullback is the one position where you'd most like to have a first name on the team sheet. Now, coming out of what was at the time a fledgling Irish Sevens program as he did, it's clear that he must have wowed the Leinster and Ireland coaching tickets long before he wowed us for him to have leapfrogged his way into that starting jersey. And the results speak for themselves. Great under the high ball, strong defensively, able to not just join in attacking plays, but also find the most cutting running lines. Over the past few years, Hugo has played his way into conversations on the top test fullbacks in the world. There's really not that much more I can say other than he's as reliable as you can be for a position where reliability is key. Actually, I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but there you go. That must prove it even more than it's true, right? Anyway, rather than gush for even longer about him, let's talk about backup. If you were to select someone like for like to replace him in green, probably the best choice out there is Munster's Mike Haley. And as recently as the USC final, he showed just how well he can do in a big match situation. And of course, there's also Ulster's Mike Lowry, who deserves an honorable mention. However, for a short tournament like the World Cup, where you can only bring 33, it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense to bring two specialist fullbacks, which puts Haley at the top end of the list of those most unlucky to miss out. It's much better to bring versatile options, and it has to be said, this Irish squad has those in spades. I've already talked about Jimmy O'Brien and Keith Earls as options for the 13 jumper. Well, they can also do a job at 15. Plus, there's Mac Hansen. They're all capable of filling the role. But as decent and all as those alternatives may be, I still have Hugo Keenan as one of the main players for which we'll have our fingers, our toes, and our eyes all crossed in the hope that he makes it all the way through the tournament in France and beyond it as well for Leinster, of course. Right, that brings to an end our series on the 15 starting Irish jerseys. Like I say, if you missed the other videos, by all means, go back in our feed and catch up. There were some great contributions from our regular panelists. Hopefully, when put together, it offers a sense of what Ireland have to offer in the weeks ahead. I'm going to end this video by tacking on a brief TikTok I did on the Irish bench. And over the coming weeks, we'll be in full swing on harpinandrugby.com with our Friday preview recordings, our Sunday wrap recordings, plus a whole lot more. So as ever, be sure to like, share, and subscribe as much as you can to help us out. And most of all, be sure and enjoy your Rugby World Cup 2023 wherever you are. Hi, I'm Jeff Pagano from harpinandrugby.com. Just sharing some quick thoughts with you as part of our weekly 80+ column, which you post on the site every Tuesday throughout the rugby season. This week, I just want to briefly harp on Ireland's bench at the Rugby World Cup. Over the past few weeks on our YouTube channel, our contributors have been discussing Ireland's options for each of the 15 starting jerseys. But of course, those outside that starting 15 aren't just there in case there's an injury. We all know how important a role the bench can play in winning big matches. In fact, many have come up with special names to try and highlight that importance, like finishers or impact players or bomb squad or whatever the hell that 7-1 thing was. And on the subject of buzzwords, many have said that Ireland's main one for this World Cup is adversity. And I'm on board with that, but when we're talking about our bench, the main topic has to be versatility. While it has been unfortunate for many players like Gavin Coombs, Mike Haley, John Crane, and Ross Maloney not to make the 33 for the plane, it can be spun as a good thing for the squad as a whole that we have such a depth of talent that we can bring a host of players who can slot into multiple different positions when required. Ryan Baird and Jimmy O'Brien are just examples of this, and we can fully expect them to be wearing at least 2, if not more, different numbers on their backs before this tournament is done.